Hey Buck, how are you doing? Good to talk to you after a long time. And I know it has been challenging time for all of us. But as I see that there is always the light beyond the tunnel and always the rays of hope beyond any crisis, right? So, Buck, as I know you, you have been thought leaders in the technology space for quite some time. And you have also helped Oracle in terms of the complete technology transformation for business leaders with the technology platform of Oracle technology for quite some time. And now with your new role, new responsibilities, how do you see that business leaders should be looking at some of the major areas of transformation, embracing the latest and greatest technologies in the area of AI, process automation, blockchain, and what have you? Can you shed some light, Buck?
Certainly, yeah. And it's wonderful to talk to you as well, too, Alok. Good to see you, my friend. I think that what we've seen is this approach to a data-centric architecture, and the data-centric that's opposed to more of an application-centric architecture that many enterprises or the majority of enterprises have embarked upon over the last 20 years. We feel that being able to put, data as your application, as Flurry's tagline talks about here, where it becomes the most valuable part of being able to operate your business and being able to leverage your business. And that's reflected in the technology stack and the approach that businesses take to technology with a data-centric architecture. That paves the way to the semantic web, or this Web3 notion that many of the forward-looking companies in a variety of industries have come across now. So to meet the challenges of today and where people are looking to automate processes as well as be able to have more intelligence applied to that, this is where we see the intersection of AI and machine learning, how that might be manifested in the robotic process automation with chatbots, with other interface elements to the users in these industries. That's where it really meets the world of blockchain-based technology or distributed ledgers and having a productive platform in which to create and deploy and manage this new style of applications.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, Buck, as you know, Centriqe is customer obsessed, customer centric, and providing the platform for giving a very delightful experience to customer with the leverage of AI to know the customer, behavioral pattern and what have you. And then also providing some of those profitability control to the business leaders. How do you see the blockchain coming in and helping the hotels, for example, or for retail or for banking, so that from your viewpoint, these are the areas where business leaders should be thinking of embracing for their business benefits?
Sure. And the notion of blockchain as a technology and how it gets applied to business domains, it's been said that, the same way that the internet is to email, blockchain is to cryptocurrency. So oftentimes, with Bitcoin and the original Satoshi paper and how that got implemented for a decentralized cryptocurrency, that's great. We at Flurry love that world on the public or the permissionless types of blockchain networks, but you can also apply, it's such a broad set. What we've done at Flurry is we've applied the notion of a blockchain, or this distributed ledger technology, is the basis of our database technology. So it provides an immutable or a tamper-proof ledger that also allows data to be decentralized and freed up, and it allows this data-centric architecture. So we've taken the notion of the blockchain technology that's grown up over the last 12 to 13 years and we've applied it to a business domain. So a couple of examples as it relates to process automation, whether it's more traditional, whether it's RPA and some of the new items, is taking a look at ensuring that the data that feeds the bot, so to speak, in an AI and a machine learning experience, making sure that that data has the utmost integrity to it. It hasn't been tampered with, and you can prove that from provenance or the original who put the data there, and then ensuring that any changes over time you have traceability into. So we make sure that we aren't poisoning the algorithm, so to speak, whether it's a malicious actor, human error, or whatever it might be. Blockchain inherently at its core provides that immutability, and it's cryptographically secured. So that's one example that we're seeing. The security elements, and like you had just noted, Alok, having this customer obsession and providing a wonderful customer experience, we need to do that where as consumers, there's always a give and take in terms of our information and then what companies can do with that, ensuring that there's compliance with personally identifiable information laws that are regulated around the world. We see this in GDPR in Europe. We see it in the US increasingly with CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, where businesses need to be able to comply with the regulations and how they store, manage, and provide access to, but then allow consumers. The one thing that we really love about decentralization and some of blockchain technologies is it puts the power back in the consumer's hands. We know that the Facebooks and the Googles of the world, they've built huge empires on monetizing data. On one part, we need to make sure that the monetization can happen without weaponization of the data. And, we saw some of these things with the, everything from the Cambridge Analytica scandal through Equifax data breaches and all these other items. How can we ensure that consumers are in control of their data while allowing them to have that richer experience? So I think that as we have capabilities for this semantic web, and the whole notion of the semantic web or Web3 is that machines are able to talk to each other, and machines intrinsically can make sense of the information. So based on the standards that Flurry has adopted and based on the protocols that are out there for these machine-to-machine communications, it becomes much more efficient, but you also need to ensure that that data is protected. So this is where, once again, the intersection of AI, machine learning, and blockchain is powering these technologies while still protecting the consumer and allowing a wonderful customer experience.
Excellent. Well said, Buck. As you mentioned, and as we all know, data is the new fuel. And data is, sometimes people say, is a new employee, which has to be protected, captured, trained for gaining the productivity in the business. Now, you also mentioned that they should not be tampered. They should be secured. They should be really managed well, and they should be able to provide us that intelligence which business needs. So Centriqe is really harvesting that data, which is originating from the different channel. Like so you mentioned semantic web, the web channel of Web 3.0. Then we talked about the social channel, which is coming from social media. Then we talked about machine to machine, which is basically coming in from devices, sensors, and what have you. But at the same time, we need to automate certain processes of that conversation, which Centriqe does very well, and then provides the predictive intelligence to the business leaders. How do you see that hotels and the retailers should be looking at now to automate certain tasks, and then at the origin of the data, they should be able to manage the data secured, transfer, and getting onto the target where that should be automated. so that data is secured with cryptography, and data should be processed with machine learning algorithm to provide that intelligence. These are things which is very important for our business leaders in the hotel, retail, banking to understand, Buck. And they are willing, they are keen to embrace if we can make it simple to them. How do you see that to make it simple to them?
Yeah, I think that making it simple, there's a couple of steps, and two things that we talk about would be in Flurry's case as a semantic or a knowledge graph style database technology. Data inherently describes itself. So we want data to be able to describe itself. And then we also talk about data defending itself. So data being able to describe itself, there's a set of W3C standards that are quite applicable to the retail, the hospitality industries, where what a client looks like, being able to model that data for not only some of the simple things like me as a customer of a retail operation, but also how I interact with, being able to have those relationships, where we would posit that when you talk about the relational database world, that often is described as columns, tables, and what we've all come to know quite well in the SQL world. That's good for some online transaction processing, but relationships in the data, graph-based and specifically around semantic graphs is the ultimate in relational technology, because it's a much more organic and flexible model that can show a relationships amongst all the data elements, and then being able to describe within that data and that information the attributes within that can be accessed by who and whence, and those travel along with all of those elements are part of the data description object. So being able to very simply and productively with a technology platform that can be adopted quickly, understood by the business users who are the analysts. This becomes, when you're working with graph technology, it's great because oftentimes on the whiteboard that you would describe with the executives, or an executive whiteboarding their business, almost invariably it would come out and it would look like a graph, and you can actually take a picture of a whiteboard and say, hey, I can now implement this. So those types of technologies to map to the real world are quite exciting, and having the added benefit of that data defending itself allows you to not have to ship around, especially to do modeling and machine learning and that type of stuff, being able to run these algorithms with the data in place. Oftentimes we'll run algorithms where we've put everything into a data lake. We've taken our operational data stores and copied or provided an API or something like that to our data, but that's oftentimes where the security breaches occur. So leave data where it is and then federate the queries in order to join across these disparate data sources using the right and the modern technology standards.
Very well. So if I can simplify and make it easier for our business leaders to understand what you are just describing about data being self-describing, self-healing, and you're talking about how that can also self-learn from the pattern which is emerging through different technologies. So machine learning is basically training the data sets, where blockchain is basically trying to have all those decentralizing the whole part and capturing in terms of the complete annotation and making it secure, so that at least data becomes very healthy when it comes for data mining. And based on that learning, we are able to provide business leaders with some kind of a predictable insights by which business leaders should be able to take actionable intelligence or decisions. by which they should correct any damages for the businesses, or they can do something corrective action for improving their customer satisfaction. Now, we need to really correlate this all for the business leaders in the retail, banking, and hotels so that they see the value. We can show the value of artificial intelligence so that we do not have to have army of people doing the same mundane task, which can be done through our systems. Machine can do a lot of process automation, which we have talked about. Blockchain is enabling in terms of data nomenclature, data security, data annotation, data privacy, all of those, and nobody will be able to tamper with it. Now, with that, what are the message you would like to give? Because pandemic has caused a lot of turbulence in the current economy. Business more or less have come to a standstill or halt where revenue is heavily impacted. What do you think business leaders, again, I'm coming back to hotels or retail, which is more e-commerce, or banks who are doing a lot of back office transaction, what they should do now so that they can do more with less, just in a few minutes, so that is the key takeaway for our business leaders who would be listening to us.
Sure, I think that one thing that within this pandemic that a lot of forward-looking enterprises have done is adopting this notion of a data-centric architecture. And there's certain steps and certain levels that are quite simple that just providing a common, without delving deeply into the world of taxonomies and ontology management and all these other items, these are areas that are adjacent to the notion of process automation. So being able to have more flexibility in your business involves being able to simplify your business. So like you had mentioned that, yes, there's been just turbulence and disruption. Coming out of this is also an element where there can be explosive evolution and adaptation to the tough business circumstances is going to produce, coming out of this, a lot of new winners and a lot of new businesses. So being able to simplify, radically simplify your business oftentimes involves taking a data-centric look at your world. Also, one other element that being able to encode your business logic, one thing that blockchains also do quite well is this notion of smart contracts, or having the ability to have business relationships embodied in code and having the code execute within the blockchain in a very secure fashion. And this is where we can codify what you had said, the more mundane processes, if these are running and you've been able to have, Flurry calls them smart functions. In the Ethereum world, on the public blockchain, they're known as smart contracts, but being able to codify your business logic as code and then have that code within Flurry, it's managed the same as data, protected the same as data. That gives you the hyper automation that you wish to do, which frees up the humans, because we can never take humans, well, never's a long time, but we probably in most situations shouldn't take humans out of the loop. And what humans can do in terms of the high order bits is not only craft the overall architecture for how I'm optimizing my business, but also do exception management, because despite our efforts to automate everything, there's always exceptions that occur as part of a business process. And when Flurry has looked at the RPA space, for instance, in general, we found that the cost of the automation is on exception management. So you could have 99 out of 100 or 99,099 out of 100,000, whatever it might be, but it's that one aspect that causes a lot of problems and can be very disruptive to your business. And most of this exception management is due to bad data. whether it was data entry or something got mangled, the bots couldn't process it, it was out of bounds. With Flurry, we've got this notion of time travel. So having a temporal dimension where you can actually rewind through the ledger. In this case, it's through the blockchain. With Flurry, you can instantly look through time to say, oh, this exception arose. This is what the data looked like. So being able to do that provides the foundation for optimizing and adapting your business to this, terrible pandemic, but looking at challenges and also the other side of that coin being opportunities. We think that enterprises, whether they be in the hospitality, retail, banking, we've worked with clients across a dozen or more sectors, but they're all taking this data-centric approach, and they're looking at being able to have the right information land in the right times and have the right level of traceability around it by utilizing really a data management platform that was built for the semantic web, built for Web3.
Excellent. So we have clearly identified that we have come to the world of gig economy, where we cannot rely on the full-time equivalent employees. Rather, we have to rely on some of the automated processes where our smart employees can do more with less, and they are on basically based on outcome-based compensation. And if that is the case, our business leaders should be exploring that options to adapt across the processes and implement those smarter technologies of artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, blockchain, which enables them to perform better and to give them the visibility and to manage and maintain the data, which is absolutely secured and highly clean and accurate, so that their intelligence is given at the right time or the fingertip. So with that, I really appreciate your time, Buck, and you have touched upon some of the cool technology which will be very useful, and Centriqe and Flurry combined can really solve some major challenges of the businesses. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
This was great, Alok. Looking forward to our partnership with Centriqe and working with your clients to make their businesses better. I appreciate it.